Lightning split the black skies of Arcos, 9 like cracks across shattered glass. The frozen planet had no oceans, no forests, no cities left alive. Only endless storms, broken battlefields, and the graves of millions. For 30 years, humanity had fought the alien giants known as the Ilari Titans, a race so massive that their footsteps could shake mountains. Every child on Earth grew up hearing stories about them. Stories of titans tearing warships from the sky. Stories of soldiers vanishing in the snow without a scream. But among all those nightmares, one name terrified humanity more than any other. The Giant Queen. Some claimed she was immortal. Others believed she could control forgotten alien machines buried beneath the planet. Entire battalions had entered her frozen kingdom. None had returned. Inside a military dropship flying through the storm clouds, Captain Kael Veyron sat alone in silence. No fear, no emotion, only focus. The red emergency lights inside the ship flashed across the scar running beside his eye. He wore black combat armor designed for stealth missions, though everyone in the fleet knew stealth hardly mattered when fighting creatures the size of buildings. Kael was humanity's deadliest operative. When governments needed armies destroyed, rebellions erased, or impossible missions completed, they sent him. And tonight, they had given him the most dangerous mission in human history. A hologram flickered to life in front of him. The face of Supreme Commander Orson appeared through static. "Your target is inside the Titan Citadel," the commander said coldly. "You infiltrate alone. You kill the Queen before sunrise." Kael nodded once. Simple, efficient. But then the commander hesitated. For the first time, Kael noticed uncertainty in the old man's eyes. "There is one additional order," Orson said quietly. "Under no circumstances must the Queen touch you." Kael frowned slightly. "What? You don't need to know." The transmission ended immediately. That bothered him more than it should have. Outside the ship, thunder roared across the planet. Minutes later, Kael jumped into the storm. The freezing wind hit him like knives as he landed on the ice-covered ruins of an ancient Titan city. Giant statues rose from the snow like dead gods, their stone faces worn down by centuries of war. The city was silent. Too silent. Even the storm seemed quieter here. Kael activated his scanner, but the device glitched instantly. Strange symbols flickered across the screen before dying completely. "Perfect," he muttered. He moved forward carefully. Every building around him was enormous. Doorways taller than towers. Bridges wide enough for warships. Snow drifted through empty streets where Titans once lived before humanity burned their civilization to ashes. Then Kael noticed something strange. The glowing blue symbols carved into the walls weren't random. They were activating as he passed, one after another, like the city recognized him. Kael tightened his grip on his plasma blade. Deep beneath the storm, a low mechanical sound echoed through the ruins. Not wind, not thunder, something waking up. He finally reached the Titan Citadel at the center of the city. Massive black doors stood before him. Without warning, they slowly opened on their own. Kael immediately stepped into darkness. The inside of the citadel felt alive. Strange whispers echoed through the halls in a language he couldn't understand. Shadows moved across distant walls. Every instinct in his body screamed that something was watching him. But Kael continued forward. One corridor, then another, until finally he entered the throne chamber. The room was enormous, illuminated only by pale blue fire burning from ancient pillars. At the far end sat a figure large enough to make Kael feel microscopic. The Giant Queen. She sat motionless upon a dark throne carved from crystal and bone. Even seated, she towered over him. Silver markings glowed faintly across her skin. A black crown rested above cold, unreadable eyes. Kael had seen monsters before, but nothing like her. Slowly, silently, he raised his plasma blade. One strike. That was all it would take. Then the Queen spoke. Kael Veyron. His heart stopped. Not captain. Not assassin. His real name. Nobody outside military records knew it. Kael's grip tightened instantly. How do you know my name? The queen slowly stood. The ground trembled beneath her feet, but there was no hatred in her eyes, only sadness. Then she raised her hand. A glowing symbol burned across her palm. Kael suddenly gasped in pain. Heat exploded through his wrist. He looked down in shock. The same glowing mark was appearing beneath his skin, the strange birthmark he had hidden his entire life. The queen stared directly into him and whispered, "You were never sent here to kill me." She stepped closer. "You were sent here to find me." Before Kael could react, alarms suddenly screamed across the citadel. The entire fortress shook violently. Explosions thundered from above. Kael's communicator activated with panicked voices. "Orbital bombardment has begun. Destroy the entire city. Do not let them escape." The queen's calm expression vanished for the first time. Fear entered her eyes. Real fear. She looked at Kael and whispered, "They know the truth now." Another explosion shattered the ceiling above them as fire rained into the throne chamber. Then she said the words that changed everything. "And they will kill us both." Cut to black. The throne chamber exploded behind them. Massive pieces of burning stone crashed from the ceiling as fire spread through the Titan citadel. Outside, human warships continued bombarding the city from orbit, turning the frozen capital of the Ilari Titans into a collapsing graveyard. "Move!" the giant queen shouted. Kael barely reacted before her enormous hand slammed beside him, shielding him from falling debris. The impact shook the floor beneath his boots. For a brief second, her fingers brushed against his armored shoulder. Pain surged through the glowing mark on his wrist. So did something else. A vision. Kael suddenly saw flashes of unfamiliar memories. Giant silver cities floating among stars. Humans and titans standing together. A black shadow swallowing entire planets. Then the vision vanished. Kael stumbled backward, breathing heavily. "What was that?" he demanded. But the queen ignored the question and grabbed a massive chain hanging from the chamber wall. With impossible strength, she tore open a hidden passage beneath the throne. "Unless you want to die here," she said, "follow me." The underground tunnel was ancient and impossibly deep. Blue lights flickered awake as they descended into the darkness, revealing enormous metallic walls covered in glowing symbols. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the tunnels became. The walls looked less like architecture and more like the inside of a machine. Behind them, distant explosions continued, shaking the planet. Kael kept his plasma blade aimed toward Lyara's back the entire time. Everything about this felt wrong. The enemy queen had saved his life twice already, and somehow he felt connected to her. That terrified him more than the war above. "You still plan to kill me," Lyara said quietly without turning around. Kael narrowed his eyes. "Maybe. You're lying to yourself." Before he could answer, they reached a giant circular door blocking the tunnel. The surface was smooth black metal covered in strange symbols. Lyara placed her glowing hand against it. Nothing happened. Then the mark on Kael's wrist suddenly burned again. The symbols lit up instantly. The enormous door slowly opened. Kael froze. Lyara looked back at him calmly. "You see now," she whispered. "The system recognizes both of us." Kael said nothing, but his pulse quickened. Inside the chamber beyond, hundreds of ancient machines rested in darkness. Some looked like giant weapons. Others resembled frozen humanoid figures connected to metallic pillars. As Kael stepped forward, the machines suddenly activated. Red lights scanned his body. A mechanical voice echoed through the room. "Architect genetic signature detected." Kael immediately raised his weapon. "Who are the architects?" Lyara finally turned toward him fully. For the first time, he saw exhaustion in her eyes instead of power. "They were the first civilization," she said softly. "The creators of both our species." Kael almost laughed. "That's impossible." "It's the truth." She walked toward one of the ancient pillars and activated it with her mark. A holographic projection burst into the air above them. Kael stared in disbelief. The projection showed humans and titans together, not fighting, standing side by side, laughing, building cities, exploring stars. Then the images changed. Human leaders meeting secretly. Weapons being developed. Titan colonies burning. A war beginning. Kael's stomach tightened. No, he whispered. Lyara looked at him sadly. Your people were told the Titans attacked first, she said. But humanity started the war. Kael shook his head violently. That's propaganda. Is it? Another image appeared. A human scientist stood beside Titan leaders, arguing desperately with military officers. Kael's blood turned cold. He recognized the man immediately. His father, Dr. Kael Veyron. Official history claimed he died during a Titan raid 20 years earlier, but the recording showed armed human soldiers dragging him away. Then the footage ended. Kael felt like the ground disappeared beneath him. Liara's voice softened. Your father discovered the truth about the architects. He tried to stop the war before it consumed both races. Kael stared at the frozen image of his father. What happened to him? Lyara hesitated. Then she answered quietly. Your government executed him. Silence filled the chamber. Kael's hands trembled slightly around his weapon. Every mission he completed, every Titan he killed, every order he followed without question. What if it had all been built on lies? Suddenly, alarms erupted across the underground complex. The floor shook violently. Ancient symbols ignited across the walls like rivers of blue fire. Then a deep mechanical sound echoed beneath the planet itself. Something enormous was activating. Kael and Lyara turned as a gigantic structure slowly rose from beneath the chamber floor. A machine larger than a battleship, covered in rotating rings and glowing energy. Dust poured from the ceiling as thousands of hidden systems awakened all around them. Then a cold, artificial voice thundered through the darkness. Genetic pair confirmed. The glowing marks on Kael and Lyara's hands pulsed together. Destiny protocol has begun. Suddenly, countless lights appeared across the underground horizon. Kael looked deeper into the darkness and realized they weren't lights. They were eyes. Thousands of ancient war machines were waking up beneath Varkos 9. The underground world beneath Varkos 9 was not a bunker. It was a graveyard of civilizations. Kael stood silently beside Lyara as the ancient machine carried them deeper beneath the frozen planet. Endless metallic platforms moved through a cavern so massive it looked like the inside of a hollow moon. Blue light stretched across the darkness like rivers of stars. And everywhere he looked, impossible things slept. Giant creatures frozen inside crystal chambers. Machines the size of cities suspended in the air. Weapons glowing with enough energy to split planets apart. Kael felt painfully small. What is this place? He whispered. Lyara's silver eyes reflected the ancient lights around them. This, she said quietly, is what remains of the architects. The platform finally stopped before a colossal chamber, unlike anything Kael had ever seen. A living map of the galaxy floated in the center of the room, formed entirely from moving light. Thousands of stars pulsed across the darkness, but many of them suddenly disappeared, consumed by a spreading black mass, moving slowly across the map. Kael stared at it uneasily. What is that? The answer came from the AI voice surrounding them. Cold, ancient, emotionless. The void swarm. The chamber darkened instantly. New images appeared across the air. Entire planets burning. Civilizations screaming as endless shadow-like creatures swallowed cities whole. Massive alien fleets firing desperately into black storms filled with millions of living monsters. Kael watched a world vanish in seconds. Not conquered, consumed. The Void Swarm is not an empire, the AI said. It is extinction itself. Even Lyara looked disturbed. The architects discovered the swarm thousands of years ago, she explained softly. Every civilization they found was eventually destroyed by it. Kael looked at the frozen creatures trapped in crystal around the chamber. All these species failed, Lyara answered. The AI continued. To survive the coming apocalypse, the architects created hybrid-compatible guardian species. Suddenly, holographic DNA structures appeared in the air. Human DNA, Titan DNA. The patterns aligned perfectly together. Kael's breathing slowed. You're saying humans and Titans were designed together? Yes, Lyara whispered. Two halves of one civilization. The AI confirmed it instantly. Only united genetic variants can activate final defense systems against the Void Swarm. Kael stared at the holograms in disbelief. Humanity and Titans were never meant to destroy each other. They were meant to stand together against something far worse. But before he could process the truth, alarms suddenly erupted across the facility. The galaxy map shifted violently. Signals were spreading outward from Varkos, 9 into deep space. The ancient systems had awakened, and now the entire galaxy knew it. Warning symbols flashed everywhere. Multiple fleets approaching. Human warships detected. Titan clans detected. Mercenary vessels detected. Lyara's expression darkened immediately. They're coming for the facility. Kael activated a nearby terminal, and his blood ran cold. A massive bounty alert appeared across the galactic network. Captain Kael Veyron, wanted for treason against Earth. Dead or alive. Priority Omega. His own government had turned him into a target. They wasted no time, he muttered bitterly. Lyara looked at him carefully. Now you understand what it means to be hunted. For the first time, Kael truly looked at her not as a queen, but as someone exhausted, someone alone. Later, while hiding inside an abandoned section of the facility, silence settled between them. Far above, distant explosions shook the planet as arriving fleets battled in orbit. But down here, surrounded by ancient ruins and sleeping gods, the war suddenly felt meaningless. Kael sat beside a giant observation window overlooking endless frozen chambers. You could have killed me in the throne room, he said quietly. Yes. Why didn't you? Lyara remained silent for a long moment. Then she answered honestly. Because I was tired of burying my people. Kael looked toward her. For the first time, he noticed the pain behind her strength. The loneliness. The weight of ruling a dying civilization for decades. I spent my whole life believing Titans were monsters, he admitted. Lyara gave a faint, sad smile. And I was taught humans only knew how to destroy. Outside the window, frozen Titan children rested inside crystal chambers beside human scientists from thousands of years ago. Not enemies. Family. Kael slowly lowered his weapon completely for the first time since meeting her. I never truly believed in the war, he confessed quietly. I just believed in orders. Lyara stepped closer. And now? Kael looked into her eyes. Now he didn't know what to believe anymore. Suddenly, the AI voice echoed through the chamber again. Final protocol available. The floor beneath them shifted as a massive circular structure rose from the darkness below. An enormous gate made of rotating silver rings. Energy pulsed through it like a heartbeat. The celestial gate, Lyara whispered. The AI continued. Only the bonded genetic pair may command activation. Kael looked toward the machine uneasily. What happens if we activate it? For the first time since awakening, the AI hesitated. Then it answered. Celestial gate activation requires equivalent life exchange. Kael frowned. What does that mean? The chamber fell silent. Then the AI spoke the words neither of them were prepared to hear. One of the bonded pair must die. The war for Varkos. 9 began before sunrise. Kael stood beside Lyara at the edge of the ancient facility as the frozen skies above the planet turned red with fire. Thousands of ships emerged from hyperspace one after another until space itself disappeared behind metal and light. Human destroyers, Titanva fleets, mercenary carriers, rebel scavengers. Entire armies had come for the power hidden beneath the planet. But then something even worse arrived. A massive black flagship descended through the clouds like a moving continent. Its surface was covered in rotating cannons and glowing military insignias. The flagship of Earth's Supreme Commander. Orson, Kael's former leader, the man who raised him like a son. A transmission suddenly echoed across every battlefield frequency. Orson's face appeared in the sky as a giant hologram. Cold, calm, victorious. Citizens of Earth, he announced, today humanity claims its future. Behind him, Giant architect symbols glowed inside the bridge of his ship. Kael's stomach tightened immediately. Orson already knew about the architects. For years, Lyara's expression darkened beside him. He's been searching for this facility his entire life, she whispered. Orson continued speaking. The Titans were never our equals. They were obstacles. The war was necessary. Kael felt rage rising inside him. Necessary? Millions had died. Entire worlds burned. Families destroyed. And now Orson spoke about it like strategy on a board. Then the commander revealed the truth that shattered the last piece of Kael's loyalty. You were never sent to assassinate the Queen, Captain Veyron. Kael froze. Orson looked directly into the transmission camera. You were sent because your genetic code was required to activate the architect systems. Lyara looked toward Kael slowly. Even she hadn't known that part. Orson smiled faintly. Your father discovered the truth years ago. Before his execution, we extracted everything from his research, including information about you. Kael's blood turned cold. His entire life had been manipulated. Every mission, every promotion, every lie, all leading him here. You were bred for this moment, Orson said. Then the transmission ended. Seconds later, Earth's fleet opened fire. The sky exploded. Orbital cannons turned entire mountain ranges into oceans of molten ice. Titan warships roared from beneath the clouds, firing massive plasma beams into human cruisers. Giant Titans climbed across frozen cliffs and physically tore landing ships apart with their bare hands. But the chaos didn't stop there. Deep beneath the planet, the architect facility suddenly awakened fully. Ancient drones erupted from hidden chambers like metallic swarms. Tower-sized machines rose from beneath the ice after sleeping for thousands of years. Some attacked humans. Some attacked Titans. Others attacked everything. The planet itself became a battlefield. Kael and Lyara sprinted through collapsing corridors toward the Celestial Gate, while explosions shook the underground world around them. We're running out of time, Lyara shouted. Behind them, ancient defense machines were slaughtering entire armies. Ahead of them, alarms screamed through the facility. And above the planet, something dark had begun moving between the stars. But Kael didn't notice it yet, because another figure suddenly stepped from the shadows holding a plasma rifle. Commander Reyes. Kael stopped instantly. For a moment, neither man moved. Reyes had fought beside him for 15 years. Brother. Partner. The only person Kael ever trusted. Now his weapon was aimed directly at Kael's chest. You chose them, Reyes said quietly. Kael shook his head. You don't understand what's happening. I understand perfectly. Reyes glanced toward Lyara with disgust. That creature poisoned you. Lyara stepped forward angrily, but Kael stopped her. Reyes, Kael said carefully. The war was built on lies. Humanity started all of this, and humanity will finish it. Reyes snapped. The facility trembled violently around them. Reyes' eyes burned with desperation. You've seen the architect weapons, he said. With that power, humanity can never be threatened again. Kael stared at his old friend in disbelief. At the cost of genocide, at the cost of survival. Then Reyes fired. The blast barely missed Kael's head. The two soldiers collided instantly in brutal close combat. Plasma blades crashed against combat armor. Sparks exploded through the dark corridor. They fought like men who knew every weakness the other possessed. Because they did. Reyes smashed Kael against the wall. You think peace is possible? He shouted. Humans destroy everything. It's what we are. Kael punched him backward violently. No, he growled. It's what we became. Reyes lunged one final time. Kael reacted instinctively. His blade pierced straight through Reyes' chest. Silence. The commander staggered backward slowly, blood spreading across his armor. Kael caught him before he collapsed. For a moment, the war disappeared. There are only two broken friends left. Reyes coughed weakly and looked toward Lyara. Then he whispered, If you trust her. Blood filled his mouth. Humanity ends. His body went still. Kael lowered his head in silence. But there was no time to grieve. The facility suddenly shook harder than ever before. The Celestial Gate activated ahead of them, its enormous rings spinning with blinding energy. The AI voice thundered through the chamber. Final sequence initiated. Kael and Lyara turned toward the massive opening forming inside the gate. Then every alarm across the facility changed at once. Not warning. Fear. The galaxy map above them filled with spreading darkness. One by one, entire fleets in orbit suddenly vanished from the scanners. Consumed instantly. Human ships disappeared. Titan fleets disappeared. Even the architect drones were being erased. Kael slowly looked upward toward the crack forming in the skies above Arcos 9, and finally saw it. A living ocean of blackness moving between the stars. Billions of shadow creatures twisting together into one endless swarm. Watching the planet. Hungry. The AI's emotionless voice echoed one final time. The void swarm has arrived. The sky above Arcos 9 was dying. Entire fleets burned like falling stars as the void swarm consumed everything in its path. Human warships vanished inside oceans of living darkness. Titan battle cruisers were ripped apart by millions of shadow creatures, moving like one gigantic organism. Nothing slowed them. Nothing survived them. From the platform beneath the celestial gate, Kael watched civilizations disappear in real time across the galaxy map above him. World after world went dark. The AI's voice echoed through the collapsing architect facility. Estimated extinction of intelligent life, 43 hours. Kael clenched his fists. There had to be another way. The massive celestial gate rotated above them like a machine built by gods. Blue energy surged through its rings, shaking the planet itself. Lyara stared at it silently. She already knew. The gate can stop them, she whispered. Kael looked toward her immediately, then activated. But Lyara didn't move. Instead, the AI answered. Celestial pulse requires bonded life source conversion. Kael's expression hardened. Say that in a language normal people understand. The AI responded without emotion. One bonded carrier must perish to generate galactic-scale energy release. Silence. Even the distant sounds of war suddenly felt muted. Kael looked toward Lyara slowly. No. Lyara lowered her eyes. It was always going to end this way. Kael stepped closer angrily. We'll find another solution. There isn't one. Outside the shattered ceiling above them, the void swarm continued swallowing entire fleets. Billions of creatures moved together like living nightmares surrounding the planet. Time was running out. Suddenly, emergency transmissions flooded the battlefield. Human soldiers trapped beside Titans. Titans shielding bunda humans. The war that lasted generations was collapsing in front of the apocalypse. Because for the first time, both sides finally understood they were never the real enemy. Kael activated every remaining communication channel across the planet. His voice echoed through human helmets and Titan command ships alike. If we keep fighting each other, he shouted, everything dies today. Some ignored him. Others listened. Then one Titan warlord lowered his weapons to defend a crashing human carrier from the swarm. Moments later, human fighters returned fire beside Titan artillery against the shadow creatures flooding the skies. The impossible finally happened. Humanity and Titans fought together. Kael led the defense from the front lines beside Lyara as architect drones and surviving fleets launched one final attack against the swarm. The frozen mountains of Arcos 9 collapsed beneath the battle. Titans ripped shadow creatures apart with their bare hands. Human pilots flew directly into the swarm to protect evacuation ships. For the first time in 30 years, the war ended, but the swarm kept coming. Endless, hungry, unstoppable. Back inside the gate chamber, Lyara quietly stepped away while Kael coordinated the defense outside. Her glowing mark pulsed brighter with every passing second. She already made her choice. If one life had to end, she would make sure it was hers. Silently, she approached the control platform beneath the gate. Ancient symbols ignited beneath her feet. The AI responded instantly. Single sacrifice sequence accepted. Lyara closed her eyes. Then a hand suddenly grabbed her wrist. Kael, You thought I wouldn't figure it out? He asked quietly. Lyara looked away. My people need peace more than they need a queen. And humanity needs someone to remind them how badly we failed. Tears slowly formed in her silver eyes for the first time. Kael stepped closer. I'm not letting you die for everyone else's mistakes. The gate's energy intensified violently around them. The planet was moments from collapse. Outside, the swarm broke through the final defense line. Massive shadow creatures descended toward the surface like living storms. The AI spoke again. Immediate activation required. Kael suddenly noticed something strange in the architect interface. Combat synchronisation pattern. Power routing systems. Military redundancies. Not sacrifice systems. Transfer systems. His soldier instincts activated instantly. The architects designed this wrong on purpose, he realized aloud. Lyara frowned. What? Kael moved rapidly across the controls. They expected one species to dominate the other eventually, he said. That's why the system only accepts one life source. He looked directly at her glowing mark. But we were never supposed to survive separately. The realization hit Lyara immediately. Together, not sacrifice. Unity. Kael grabbed her hand firmly. Trust me. The marks on both their wrists erupted with blinding light. The AI suddenly changed its response. Dual synchronization detected. Unknown command pathway opening. The celestial gate transformed instantly. Instead of draining one life, the machine connected both their energies together like a single pulse. The enormous rings above them began spinning faster than ever before. Outside the planet, the void swarm paused. For the first time, it reacted with fear. Kael and Lyara stood together at the center of the storm as light consumed the chamber around them. Then the gate fired. A wave of blue-white energy exploded across the galaxy at impossible speed. Every shadow creature touched by it disintegrated instantly. Entire worlds were freed in seconds. The void swarm screamed across space as the pulse erased it from existence. But the gate itself began collapsing. Reality cracked apart around Kael and Lyara. The last thing Kael saw was Varkos, 9 disappearing inside white light. Then everything vanished. Months later, the galaxy was finally silent. The war was over. Humans and Titans rebuilt together across shattered worlds. Statues of Kael Veyron and Queen Lyara stood in the center of the new peace capital, their joined hands carved into crystal. Children from both species grew up hearing the same story. The soldier and the queen who saved the galaxy together. Most believed they were dead, but far beyond known space. Beyond every map star, 2 figures slowly awakened beneath an unfamiliar golden sky. Ancient architect towers stretched across the horizon. A new world, untouched, alive. Kael opened his eyes slowly beside Lyara. She smiled softly at him as strange new stars burned overhead. Then she whispered, Our destiny was never about saving one world. Kael looked toward the endless horizon. Lyara squeezed his hand gently. It was about beginning a new one.